Hey, I'm Zach.
I'm Bobby.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brent.
You're watching
Talking Mars on Now You Know.
Welcome to Talking Mars, episode 4. This is your support group. I am Zach. I'll moderate you through what has been, I know, a rough time for all of us.
Yes.
Just wanted to introduce Nick has joined our group because he needs
Special
our
guest.
help.
Yes.
Nick is back from Australia. He's been experiencing what it's like to be in out of civilization for a few months. So he will help us to understand that better.
Yes.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Episode 4 was a complete departure from the first 3 episodes, I thought.
Right? I was expecting there to be like people come down and we meet a whole, 4 new characters or something like that, and that there are now 8 characters on Mars, but instead they've explode forward 4 years, and sort of like...
We did meet some new characters, though, didn't we?
Oh, God.
Don't you want to go in the direction I
Want to talk about?
I'm mad about plants. Oh my God.
Mummy, take care of my ivy.
Okay. So intense. I don't think that the writers of this show know how humans interact with each other on a normal day-to-day basis.
They interact differently on Mars.
Something about that Martian
There's something
atmosphere.
about mumbling.
It could definitely
Mumbling
be...
a lot.
I mean, it could be that, like...
They get space dementia.
Flying to... like... Because... So I want to shout out to a few YouTube videos that if you haven't watched, I think you should totally watch. Vsauce 1, 2, and 3
Yes.
did each their own independent... not independent. It's for this Mars thing. They did their own little episodes on Mars, so definitely go check those out.
Yeah, full of good information.
Good information
and good, thoughtful,
get your brain
mind-blowing things.
thinking about stuff. And they talk about how people might not be mentally prepared for Mars. Maybe, but I think this is just
Don't
bad
you have
writing.
to take psychological exams and stuff to be an astronaut?
It
though?
does seem
Except
like it.
unless you're the spouse of a person they need on the planet.
But even him, like,
Come
he's
with
not
me,
even
husband.
that bad. He is bad, but everyone's bad. No one is good at communicating or talking or just being, like, a happy, well-adjusted person. They all seem like that they've got something stuck on them.
And they're not even
just
reasonable about it. They're not even
Right.
like, guys, I'm freaking out a little bit. I think I need to take some medication.
Right.
They're just like,
Right.
it's all internal. Like it's
Right.
just really strange.
They are under like a tremendous amount of stress to meet the deadlines that are like keep accelerating because
True.
the guy in charge is just like, oh,
Yeah,
fuck,
Part of the
we're
problem with
years
this
ahead of
episode
schedule.
is, I mean, we were complaining a
Fake
lot with the last 3 episodes of how slow they were going, but they really went the opposite way this episode. Yeah, they
They're just
really
like-
opened the fire hose.
2033. 2034.
In like the first 2 minutes, I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
It's like,
There was
where are we now?
literally a scene where it was like 5 seconds and then a year went by.
Yo.
Like,
No,
Yeah,
a year went
they-
by every 5 seconds for the first 2 minutes.
Right.
It was
The
just
weirdest
like, whoa!
part. The weirdest part was where she's like, "I did my first medical examination on Javier," and then it cuts to Javier, and he's like, and then it just goes like, boom, 2034.
No, what was interesting, remember when she said,
What?
it's weird. He says that he's felt symptoms of a cold.
Right.
But I haven't seen symptoms of a cold. Boom! Like, it's
Yeah.
gone. I'm like, what?
He
what
just
does that
smiles
mean?
at the camera.
He laughs.
He's like,
was he playing a
joke on her?
Yeah,
That was,
like,
like,
well,
that was the seed for their makeout scene later.
And
That
4
was
years
like,
later.
yeah, right. He's just got a really
Oh!
long
He's playing a really
plan.
slow
You're
game.
right. No, I mean, he's right. I mean, that was him trying to flirt with her. Check on me, please. I need you to do a checkup on me.
There's 4 people in the on Mars.
That's definitely what it was, though.
So wait
It's
a
like-
minute. In 2037, that's their first kiss?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think honestly,
wait.
it was way too
It seemed-
intense.
it seemed
No,
real pent
It'd
up.
be a regular.
If it was not their first kiss, I have some serious questions about their relationship because that was the most awkward thing.
I know.
I mean, like in the beginning, they're both like, "Are we doing this?" Like,
Yeah.
Isn't that something that gets discussed before we go to Mars? Okay, guys, there's going to be some sexual stuff going on. We need to, address that before we go to Mars.
Did they bring condoms?
Right. Are we talking about it?
Just 3D printed.
This
I don't
needs to be
know.
talked about.
Yeah. Why? It's just weird writing.
It is.
Yeah, this show has very strange writers.
So in particular, I just want to talk about when the new plants guy and the Javier guy are talking about
What
plants.
was that about?
the most
The shock,
intense conversation.
They're both agreeing with each other that they love plants.
plants are very good.
Right, and then the other guy's
Yes,
like,
they are good.
he's like, he's talking about Mesopotamia, which I can understand. The dialogue makes sense.
Right.
The acting makes
So-
no
Right,
sense.
so it's the direction. I mean, the director really seemed to not have a clue what they were doing.
Right. I mean, Hannah did say this new guy was intense, but I mean,
But
Yeah,
that's
but
the
intense
thing.
go-
the
it's
death
like-
stare he was giving Javier.
It's like they're talking about the weather, and they're just like, Brent, I heard it was gonna be raining tomorrow. And we're like agreeing with each other.
Right.
Yes,
They
I also
weren't-
heard it's going to be raining
Yes.
tomorrow. Like, what?
They weren't smiling
Good stare off there.
Well, Javier was.
a little bit.
a
He
little
was
bit.
doing his
But,
like.
you can only do so much when someone's giving you a death stare. You know, like
Yeah.
But like I would be no, you didn't. You'd turn it up to be like, we're smiling, we're having fun, a conversation. Like
Mad
I'm like,
dogging him.
I agree with you. Like the other person would be like,
It would make more sense if he was like creepily happy.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that make more
maybe
sense?
it's jet lag though. I mean, maybe we don't know what it's like to be on a 7-month jet lag. You know what it's like. Were you like that when you got to Australia or back? Were you just for months? You're just like, shut up.
I don't think it was that bad. I think it was really just like.
Didn't you just sleep it off? I mean,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was like the first week. You know, like I was waking up at 5:00 in the morning, but then like one night I just pretty much stayed up the entire night and it fixed it. You know.
they don't talk about that either. There is a different cycle, right? So basically, their day is
Slightly
2.7% shorter.
yeah.
Yes.
Right? And that's an interesting thing. I think it should have been brought up by now that like you get out of sync with Earth, so now you can't communicate with Earth the same way. You can't be like, oh, it's 4 a.m. It's not 4 a.m. on Earth anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
are they going by Earth time or are they going by
right.
their own time?
I would assume that the team on Earth is going by Mars time.
Okay.
Specifically, their Mars time, what longitude they're on, is
So
what
this
they're
would
going
be
to
fun to have pointed out
To
in
talk
one of their
about.
little scientific
They
dialogue.
need to talk about how they're going to do years, days, like
Right.
calendars, because what's gonna happen? Like, is it what are dates anymore? You
Right,
know,
that's
like,
right.
oh, is
And-
it Valentine's Day or is it not Valentine's
Right.
Day? Like, how do you know?
Right.
And I'm curious. I don't know what the tilt of Mars is because like Earth is like 23 degrees, so you have seasons. And I also don't know what the latitude on Mars is of them, of where they are in terms of Mars. So I don't know like if it should be getting colder or warmer over the course of a year. I mean, 4 years they would have gone around the sun a couple times. I don't know. It's just like we miss all that.
One of the things they
Mars
talked
is still
about.
25 degrees, by the way.
Oh, I was wondering what you're very
Oh.
good. Checking the facts. I thought you were doing tricorder readings.
So I mean that's pretty.
My calculations. Sorry, Zach. Continue.
So that's pretty similar to Earth.
Right. So in
Okay.
one of the Vsauces, they were talking about that when you send people up to the space stations, right, and they're up there for months, that they need to they requested to be able to sit around a table together.
Right.
Right. And they don't show that on this at all. Like there's very little. They're off in their little pods doing their research, but they never show them just
Right.
chillaxing, watching
not-
a movie.
or listening to music. Because I mean, and another thing from the Vsauce, which is excellent, is that they talk about music. You can go online and see the wake up calls or the wake up music that they have for each individual astronaut every day. So every day they play like a different song, and usually it's pretty space themed because most of the people on the space station are space nerds, which makes sense. So it's usually like a space odyssey or like
How many
the
space
Russians
songs
really,
are there?
the Russians really like ballet music and like stuff like that.
a lot
You
of
know, like,
rush.
how many
It would probably be
Um,
the funnest thing to wake up to the Space Odyssey.
I mean, wouldn't it be cool? You're like, oh, wow, I'm floating. This is great. That's what I'm talking
Star
about. Like,
Wars.
they should be more, because whenever I'm doing something fun, whether it's hard work or not, you can always sort of be like, hey, we're doing a fun thing. Like, oh, we're, like,
Right.
on a-
I mean,
on a-
shouldn't the commander have been planning some fun things to get her crew? Maybe this is showing that she's not a great commander. I don't know. Maybe if Ben had lived, he would have been like, "Come on, guys, let's go watch Star Wars."
If Ben had lived, that's a good point to bring up because like if Ben had lived, he's such a like hard hitting like I feel like leader. I don't think he would let these people push him around.
He would not have let British people come off the
I
damn shuttle and been like, "We're taking over here." Who is
Yeah.
in charge of?
No,
I just
that's a
is
great
Hannah-
question.
That's the
is
problem
Hannah
with
in
the
charge?
question of
That's the
the
problem with
episode.
Hannah is that she doesn't have that leadership
Or does she
type
take
vibe
her?
yet.
Maybe
Yeah.
she just takes her orders from Earth, though. I mean, maybe she's in charge for momentary things, but maybe she has to take.
I mean,
her
if she's
orders.
commander, doesn't that make her the base commander? Unless one of these new people is somehow
They-
higher up on
and
the
they don't make
chain
it
of command.
clear at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, no.
I think it's done by accent. I think if you have a British accent, you are in charge. and then it goes down from there to Russian. She's at the bottom.
I like the 2016 stuff.
Yes.
This week they're talking about Antarctica. I think that was really cool.
Yes.
Talking about searching
Very
for
cool.
life.
Yes.
Searching for life, living on a place where there is no like trees and grass and stuff. I think that's pretty interesting.
Right.
Okay, but the tie-in here. So on the Antarctic part, they're showing a scientist who goes out and looks for microbial life, right? And then we cut to Mars, where she's using a drone to find microbial life, which she's having no luck at. One point we did bring up the drones. Okay, so if you watch another great video, Cody's Lab.
Yeah.
This past couple episodes, he talked about the wind and the effects on Mars, and he shows that what we're seeing on the Red Planet in the Mars episodes is probably not accurate.
And also in The Martian. So the test that he did was he brought down the air pressure in a tank to what the Mars air pressure is. So he sucked out a bunch of air, replaced it with carbon dioxide, but the air pressure is much lower. He set up a fan and a feather and turned on the fan, and the feather doesn't move. He did it with smoke, and that circulates, but it's really... the air, it's like if I threw a rock at you or if I threw a foam rock at you. Like, it's completely different, the amount of actual force you're going to be
And so it's annoying to me when I see these Mars scenes where a truck is driving along the rover and there's dust coming off as if it was in Arizona. And that, I don't think, would behave that way.
Right.
And
It would really, like, there's less gravity, there's less air pressure.
Oh, so it would just float more?
Yeah, it would.
Oh,
you'd have
okay.
these huge dust clouds coming up from behind the rover, and that's
Yeah.
probably why they don't do it, because you don't get to
you
see
wouldn't
the
see it.
cool rover.
And so the dust is very fine particles on Mars.
Right.
Right? Like a talcum powder.
Right,
And so that's what coats the solar panels and
And
why it
that's
has to be
blown
cleaned.
off with wind, and why the weak ass wind on Mars can blow that off. Another thing is when the red shirt guy gets zapped by the
And tumbles
thing,
down the
and
hill.
tumbles down the hill.
Can I
So
just
first of all-
warning to actors, if you have just little lines about nothing
Yes.
Right.
and you're working on something outdoors,
Right.
you're probably not going to
Oh, my dog! I can't wait to see
my
my
God.
dog again. Yeah, or if you're about to retire,
Yes.
and you're actively talking about it all the time.
If you're getting too old for this.
Right.
You know?
It's aside from
What happened to him?
the obvious he's gonna get hurt thing, so he tumbles down the hill. First of all, the tumbling would look a little different because you're on Mars.
Right.
The tumbling would be different. I can
38% gravity.
right. I can accept that
That would
it
be
would have
hard.
been a little too hard to do. The running also would have been a little more boundy.
Yes,
you could
boundy.
get huge
boundy.
strides.
Yes.
I can accept that he had to earth sprint.
No.
It's hard. It would be hard to do. The one thing that really bugged me is that he's like dragging him along.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, Ron Howard. You
Either-
went to such extents for Apollo 11 where you put them into the comet vomit and shot everything in zero gravity. And that was way back in the day, right? Now you've got a budget and you've
Right.
got CGI. Come on.
I think so. What he should have been able to do was just sort of either carry him or just like throw him over his shoulder.
Yeah.
I mean,
He'd only weigh
there's
like
a
60
couple
pounds.
reasons why that might not happen. One is that you've traveled through space for so long, and then you had to.
You've been on
you've
Mars.
been
Right,
on
but
Mars
that was
for a while.
Javier though who was dragging him. He's been
No,
there.
it wasn't Javier.
Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah, it was
Javier.
Javier.
Yeah.
He's
Now-
been there for
Well,
4
but
years
also we
now.
don't know how heavy the spacesuits are, right? Because like
Space
They're
sickness
very thin and svelte and
being on
light
Mars,
weights.
being not able to be lifting the same weights as you would back on Earth.
I see.
Does
So
that
you're-
also weaken your muscles?
so
to a
maybe
point
you're
But
a
you're
third
okay,
of
but that in the
I
base.
feel like
They
you would
must.
have super, like
Exoskeletons. By 2037,
Right.
we're all going to have exoskeletons. Right, Elon?
right. I think we should.
Yes.
So I'm just like.
Okay, but anyway, yes. I'm so tired now of the Hollywood isms. It's like you can tell that someone somewhere in a writer's room is like, oh, I'm so bored of this. Let's just fast forward and make it more. And I want there to be science, and there's no science. It's like
Yeah.
4 years have gone by and we built this whole big thing. And it's like, tell us how you built
Yeah,
it.
how
Right,
did you
yeah.
do that?
I found it interesting that they didn't really go into how they built the whole back in 2016 they didn't talk about like how they would plan on building the whole society there, the buildings and everything.
right.
They just kind of like, oh yeah, Antarctica.
It happened.
Also, we're underground for the main part, right?
Right.
But then, our scientist Russian woman is on the surface all the
How
time.
do they get back
How
and
does she
forth?
get back? That's interesting. I'd
they,
like to know
they
about that.
said that they were going to clear out one of the magma tubes.
That would be a fun episode.
That would be a fun episode.
Or
They
you just
also-
spend 5 minutes, like rather
Yeah.
than just like.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, a
Crossing
captain's log. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's what
I
Captain
think-
Kirk did
I
to
feel
move
like
the lava line.
I feel like we're at the point now where we almost have to accept that this show is just going to be broad strokes. It's
Yeah.
for a more broad audience and not like maybe people like us who are looking for the hard science stuff. You
Yeah,
know?
it's painting a very far back picture where you just need to kind of put a pixel.
Yeah, this
in
is like
here.
this is like a Monet. You're supposed to stand
Yeah.
right far back and like, oh, I can sort of see
Yeah.
what's going on here.
The-
yeah,
It's
all right.
not photorealistic.
Yeah.
And the one sciencey thing, it was the nano wires.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
replacing the copper ones because they're not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
As if like we didn't know. As
Right.
if it's doing worse.
Right,
It would be cold. It would be doing slightly better than it would on Earth.
right. It wouldn't be wearing out or anything.
Right.
Differently.
It's copper wire.
Right.
We use copper wire all the time.
Yeah, it's just a very plot pointy thing. Like, oh, we've come up with a more efficient wire. We need to replace all the wires, and it's
Right.
like you would.
And you knew from the second they started talking about that something's gonna go wrong there.
Right.
And-
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, and it's and then we have to do a quick junction box split. It's like, no, you wouldn't. You would have thought of a way around that.
A lot of this stuff would have been thought of in advance.
Yes.
You would have been making these modules in advance. Everything that you're shipping to Mars has to be so meticulously thought out. You wouldn't be just sort of throwing stuff out there.
Yeah.
Now, I had a question, and Bobby brought this up. Bobby was saying, why don't you just send robots ahead of time to get all this set up for you for when the humans arrive? But then we did see an interesting thing on Vsauce, which was pointing out that for all the years that we've had rovers on Mars, they have done the equivalent of what a human could do in just hours.
In like a day.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought they were like super efficient in being able to do all these amazing things. It's amazing to think that a human could just go up there and be like, yeah, I can do all these scientific experiments.
Right. It's because you have intelligence. You're able to be like, I'll pick up this rock and do stuff with it. Whereas the robot's just like, I'm waiting for it to be told something, and then there's a back and forth time,
Yeah.
and then it has to take a picture, upload it.
When one of the rovers got stuck on Mars, I think it's still stuck.
Right.
It wound itself into that thin talcum powdery dust and got stuck. And then we had to rebuild a simulation of it on Earth and spent months trying to figure out how to program it to get out, and we never could.
Right.
I think that's awesome science. Like, that's awesome storytelling.
Right.
And yet I don't think many people know about that how many
Yeah.
people had to try and figure out that. And we should be showing those kinds of stories in this Mars show. That's the human element that I would like to see.
Yeah.
Instead, we're just getting this kind of Hollywood gloss.
Right. Having worked with like a team on sciencey based things, it's funny how everyone really works together. You'd think that there would be all these sort of divisions, and there are divisions, but they're not like, no one's getting intense about it. Everyone's just sort of like, oh, I don't really agree with you that this or that is somewhat like that. They're trying to work towards a solution, and in this show it just seems like they're just trying to create drama.
Yeah. Well, there's this like drama aspect, and we talked about this a lot. Drama aspect, then there's like the documentary aspect. And there like is a split right in the middle. It's 50-50. And I almost would rather see just one or the other.
One or the other.
Because I would love to see a drama on people going to Mars, but it's almost like this is just kind of a half-assed version.
Yeah.
Right.
And the same thing with the other side. It's like I want to see more documentary, but they have to spend every episode in the documentary section on one topic, and I want to talk about everything,
Right.
not just Antarctica for an hour. It's like
Because then the same thing is true. The inverse happens where they're on Mars and they can only talk about the stuff that relates to Antarctica.
Right.
Yeah.
They're sort of limiting themselves on both fronts.
yeah,
And now I get it because there have been a lot of really cool documentary style kind of things on Mars where they talk about a bunch of aspects. They have all the that's the same shots basically of people who know things about Mars, Neil deGrasse Tyson types and stuff like that, where they're talking about the challenges and stuff. And then there have been the sort of dramatizations of sort of space, like The Martian. Although The Martian was pretty accurate aside from
Okay, except I just learned, as we learned from Cody's lab,
Big exception.
that the big plot point, which was that the Daedalus gets knocked over and that there's wind and sandstorms, would not really happen the way we thought they would. So I'm kind of disappointed in in Andy Weir that he couldn't have come up with a better way to get him stuck on the planet, something more realistic, like a strut failure or something, instead of just
The cliche.
yeah. And now and
Can't
then
see you.
that cuts into what we're seeing here, which is in the next episode. I guess there's going to be a sandstorm,
Right.
and it's like, really, is that all you could come up with? Is a sandstorm like?
What about cave-ins? Like, what about like maybe the surface isn't like strong enough, and the people haven't stepped on it, and they're disrupting it.
Or like, what happens if there's an earthquake,
It's like-
right, and they're underground?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Or how about food? There would be, you're only getting your food from Earth right now. You're not really able to grow enough, right? So there'd be this big stress over food, and maybe there's one guy who's just eating all the time, and they're just like, Bob, stop eating all the jam.
It's my favorite
They would
preserve.
definitely be one of those guys. And that leads right into security. Like,
Yeah.
no one on this mission, I think, is a security guy,
Nope.
right? So if you don't feel like following the rules, what happens?
Yeah,
Are you
there's
just
no Ben
banished?
to protect anyone, and
Right, Ben was kind of like the badass who was going to do that. Now he's not there, and
Yeah.
I feel like something's going to happen like that because it seems like Javier is getting very like kooky. Although maybe after this date he'll calm down. I don't know.
I feel like they should have like in the writing of Hannah, right? That's the
Yeah.
they should have
Commander.
made her like more of a commander, right? Because like
Or give her like skills so she can like mind meld, or she can like knock you out.
maybe she's like good at like I don't know Krav Maga or something. I
like
don't
what was her
Krav
special?
Maga?
What's her specialty? Why
What's
is she?
Krav Maga?
Israeli
Is
I
that
It's like
don't
a type of
Oh, okay.
martial art, like
Oh, I thought that was some kind of food. Or,
know.
Like
Sounds like
why is she on this mission? Like what
What
is
was
her
her
skill set?
specialty?
I don't know.
She has
I
a
don't
twin.
remember.
That's literally why.
you got to have a twin, right?
Well, because they wanted fake Elon wanted like someone with a tie back to Earth.
Was that really the only reason? I feel like,
I feel like that's a big
feel like
part of
she's,
it.
she's got to have some sort of like science that she
she
does.
did. She,
Oh,
they said in the
no,
first
it's
episode.
it's eyeliner.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Eyeliner,
They
natural
definitely
eyeliner.
said it in the first episode, but I don't remember.
but
at
also,
this
I mean,
point.
having a link back to Earth does not mean you need a twin.
No.
True.
I mean,
Could be brother. It could be sister.
Could be
could
brother. Could be a
Also,
sister.
to keep
could
them
be-
from going crazy, I mean, I'm sorry, you've been on Mars for 4 years. There's going to be effects to you psychologically more than mumbling. Like, you're going to need to be talking to Earth all the time and to have all this camaraderie, and they're not showing any of that. It's just dimly lit little area that they live.
And with a 3D printer, I mean, I know they have to save their resources, but like, wouldn't it be a little bit more like humanized there? Like, I'd have like some like. It just looks so stale and so sciencey.
Oh, well, here's another thing. They're in the biologist's office, and there's like a microscope, and there's what look like filing cabinets in the background. It's all fuzzed out, but like filing cabinets, really? You're on Mars and you have filing cabinets.
Yeah.
You're using paper,
Yeah.
like from trees from Earth, really? You're not just gonna use a hard drive. It's not all on computers.
Yep.
yeah.
And it's in this huge
Oh,
space.
And also, wouldn't all that data be being sent back to Earth so that the world's best
Right,
biologists
they would
could
be
talking
analyzing
to
it.
about it? So she wouldn't be alone, like, I don't know what to
I'm
do.
learning
Right,
about
yeah.
the Martian thing.
You'd be
and like,
talking to these biologists who'd be sharing your discoveries. And
Our
Right.
2-year-olds now use iPads for everything.
Right.
There's no way we would have notebooks on Mars. I'm
right.
sorry.
And the brains would all be on Earth.
Right.
She's just the collector.
Yes, they would be sending her out every day to go
She's
look
not.
at.
She,
Yes.
They'd be like, go to Sector 4B. We think that there
Yeah.
could be some life there.
Right.
She wouldn't just be like, I looked on top of a cliff and I couldn't find anything. It's just like, come
The
on.
last episode, they talked about how big Mars is, and like you're sending this one person with one
Right.
drone to go find
Right.
life.
And they had a fleet of drones, right? They had like
Right.
6 drones.
Right.
They could
Right,
like
which are autonomous.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So presumably they could have people on Earth just be like, okay, go
Right,
check out
she's
this
just
spot.
DJI flying it around.
Wouldn't it be that she stays back in the base and flies them autonomously so that she doesn't have to climb
She's
out
not
of the
as-
hole?
She's not such a risk.
And she gets
She's
hit by,
edgy.
by
She needs to be at risk all
Well,
the time.
I guess it might depend on like maybe the range of like how you can control the
True.
drones could be different.
I don't know, but also when you're on the surface, aren't you getting bombarded by alpha particles?
You are getting bombarded by radiation. So another thing that I think is interesting is that Mars gets bombarded by asteroids, much like Earth does.
Okay.
But it has less of an atmosphere, so most of the stuff doesn't burn up like it does on Earth.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you'd be having, I'm not saying that they'd be like super common happening all the time, but you'd be having little asteroids that wouldn't
Oh, where'd Nick go?
well, no, they wouldn't like be burning up in the atmosphere. So I mean,
Oh, maybe that's
That
what
would be-
happened.
maybe
Maybe
that
that's
seems
what
like that'd
happened
be more of a
but like
problem
every
with
once in a
copper.
while there'd be like a poof, like off in the distance. It's very rare that it would hit you, but like
That would
you'd
be
be
cool.
seeing an
So
asteroid.
they
hit
could
the
all
ground.
freak out.
And they'd be like, "What was that?"
Yeah.
I think that's what happened to the guy who was doing the thing. Like a little asteroid just
Yeah.
takes his suit.
It
It
could've
just like
Was I the only one who heard this? When he's working on that thing, you hear like zzz, zzz.
yeah. No,
It's
they
like,
were-
What?
They were definitely trying to
Right.
foreshadow, like, oh, he's gonna get electrocuted, and it's like, nope, he's just gonna. I don't know what happened.
Right.
Well, they
I
never
think he
explained what
did.
happened to.
Did-
All
no,
the
he
only thing
closed
they
the
did to
thing.
explain what happened to him is they cut back to 2016 and they were like, lots of people are gonna die on these missions.
Yeah, right.
So we'd assume that guy's dead. Like, they didn't
it's-
really
They didn't
get
say
it.
anything.
They brought him back and he was in a
No
thing.
one seemed very upset. I'd be by his
Okay.
bedside crying or something.
Well, but
I
no one
wouldn't be
cared
making
about it.
out
He was
with
just a random
that girl,
character,
right.
so.
Right, and that's I think the
Wouldn't he be key to the mission?
everyone would be key to the mission.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's all
Except
these
for the British.
there's all these people who are just there to like pan a shot
Right.
across. Like, I have a clipboard.
Or
You
like-
don't have a clipboard. It's Mars, damn it.
Also,
You have
the
an
only reason- I'm
iPad.
telling you now, the only reason that guy fell off that like little hill there was to move the plot line of the romance between Javier and the girl forward. Because he was like, oh my god, it was so scary.
Had they forgotten? Was there some episode that was missing? Because I mean, you can't go 4 years and
Well, it
not.
seems like
So
they-
I think it's because they skip forward so much. Like they're not going to be like, well, we can't just say that this already happened, so we have to make it happen
Yeah,
after
it's
4
so
years.
unbelievable. I don't know.
Again, oh, thanks.
They
Their
didn't have to,
decision.
they could have implanted like they could have put the spark 3 years in maybe, or like maybe the
Well,
spark-
they
They
did
had
with
the
the
spark with the
lavender.
lavender
thing. Oh, right,
was the-
yeah,
I was
yeah.
totally
I believe
expecting
that they
it-
were a couple after the lavender scene.
right.
I thought there were a couple even before they
Right.
left. You
Yeah,
know?
'cause
Yeah,
she
no,
keeps-
they seemed like a couple pretty early
they're
on.
making googly eyes at each
Yeah.
other from like episode 1.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So first married couple on the planet that weren't married on the. Has anyone gotten married yet? No.
No.
So
don't-
They did say someone came on the ship, not a couple. They didn't really explain
Oh,
that
right,
too.
right. Yeah,
but
and
they
the-
didn't say who it was.
They Really?
Yeah, no, I assumed they were talking about Javier, but I don't know if they
I
were.
thought they were
Maybe it was
talking
the guy
about
who
the
got-
husband and wife, but they're
No,
already
no,
husband and
they're-
wife.
Right, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought I was either like, okay, they're either talking about those two, like Javier, or they're talking about the wife, and
Yeah.
and like, wait, they're already
There,
married.
there
That
was
doesn't make
that
any
other
sense.
two guy and girl that I don't remember her name. The one who's basically the doctor was inspecting at the ends of that scene. It might have been
yeah.
those two, but those two didn't have any speaking lines.
I
really,
know,
so
it
you
was
didn't
like,
really know
who
who
are
she
they?
was talking
So
Huh?
I feel like this would be a really interesting show on its own, which would be to take 8 people, put them into a tent, and have them live for a year, which they've done.
They've done
on the
that.
Vsauce.
Right.
They've been experimenting with this to see what the social aspects would be. They put you in a tent for a year basically, and you live as if you're on Mars, right?
Right,
And
and
every
you
time you
can
go
only-
out,
right.
you have to put on a hazmat suit, and you can't communicate with Earth except for the time delay. Like
Right.
that's awesome data, right? But
I
in
would
this
never
show,
volunteer for that
they're not talking about toilets. Come on, you got to talk about toilets.
Well,
They
They
talked
say-
about
they
it
did
once.
talk
He
about
was
the
like,
toilet.
I'm tired of going to the bathroom in the suction toilet.
But that's the one on the ship to
Right.
Mars.
Right.
When you're on the planet, is it a composting toilet? Like we need that waste for the plants and for
Right.
right.
They explained that
That's
in The
something
Martian.
I was gonna say in The Martian they did address that.
I think the reason why Martian was so popular as a book and a movie is because we talk about all this stuff. The
It was
shits
all
and the,
very. It
And
was
Matt Damon.
all
And Matt Damon.
very sciencey based. Yeah, and I think that's why it did well, and I think that's why.
And I
I'm
think they
losing
probably had
interest
some
in this
meetings
show.
where they're like, well, that already covered the science stuff, so let's cover more of the moody astronaut side or something. I don't know,
Bizarre.
but I'm really missing the science,
And
especially when botanists just look at plants. Botanists don't just look at plants; they're looking at
Right, they're going to be testing the soil. They're going to be
Yes.
testing the water. They're going to
They're
be
going to
like,
be running experiments where this plant is doing this and this plant's doing that.
right. They're not just like, oh, this plant is green. Like,
Right.
what?
Now, do we have any predictions about what Javier is going to do? Because we all know Javier is going to do something.
Yes.
Probably to the plant guy. I think he's going
No,
to
they're
stab him
friends.
No,
or
I think
reverse.
they're
Whoa,
okay.
they're
No,
friends.
I think they're going to fight. I don't know why, but I think they're going to fight.
But
there's
like as he
definitely-
walked away after that conversation, he's like, finally, I don't have to do everything.
he
myself.
smiled, but
No, he's like, oh, I don't have to do everything by myself anymore. So it's kind of like he's there as like a stress relief.
but
for
I
him.
feel like there's a reason they made it seem like there was tension. In that
No, I
conversation.
think
I feel like
really bad.
they might just be doing a really bad job of showing the psychological effects. And like
Maybe.
one of the things that I don't like about what they're doing is they're not really talking about that in the 2016 aspect,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So they mentioned it like once or twice. They're like, oh, we have no idea what's going to
Yeah.
happen after 7
Yeah,
weeks.
let's-
of space
We
travel.
do have some idea.
Yeah,
We've-
and let's
we've
interview
done
some
interesting
people
tests.
in Antarctica and talk to them about like what it's like to live down there for months. Like
Yeah.
that
Right.
would be interesting. They could have just shown that a little bit.
And there's different things. So I mean, like the first team was there for like a year or something before
Yeah.
the second team arrived.
Yep.
And then the second team is there, so that you have like 8 people on Mars, and then and now there's up to something like 50 or so people,
Not yet.
like 25.
It's a lot.
No, I think we're at the 16 level, aren't we? Like
Maybe.
I don't remember. They were talking about how they were going to start sending ships over with 50
50.
people.
But I mean, it's
at
very
a time.
vague.
I want to know why the French guy on Earth is pushing so hard. I understand it gets him ahead a year or two, but a year or two, you would think you'd be smart enough to know that that's not worth it if you're going to stress the system too much.
I think he's just getting old and wants to see progress.
It doesn't look like he's getting old.
They're
He looks
showing-
very young.
Honestly, is it just me or does it seem like they're showing more gray in his hair? Like I feel like he's looking
I feel
older.
like in 2037, suits are going to look a little different.
Yeah,
They're not
true.
going to have the necktie? You think the necktie will die?
And
out
his
there?
gonna
hair,
be a bolo.
I don't know. It's like she met
Ascot's
him
are going to come back into
in her
style.
office. Like she's the General Assembly woman. She's like the biggest,
Yeah.
most powerful person. She meets him in a wife beater, right?
Yeah.
She's dressed like an army person.
No, and then the only thing like futuristic I noticed about that scene was there was like a hologram on the table.
Yeah, that actually bugged me a lot. I was like, really? You're gonna like that was like
Yeah.
the most futuristic thing they added, right?
Yeah.
He was just like button.
Whoop, hologram, by the
It's like-
way, we have those. They kind of showed it earlier. It was like using a hologram.
Well, and he seemed like he was going to impress everyone every time he hit the button.
Yeah.
It's like everyone would have seen this by now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, hologram.
And also,
Check out what I built.
holograms aren't that great. At least not right now. And even in practice, it would be like,
In 2037, they're going to be awesome.
it's
I feel like
just-
augmented reality is cooler than holograms.
I think they would have
Would be,
all
yeah.
had some kind of Google glasses at that thing.
Right,
And they
and
would
it
have
would've
all
been
been
there.
like, oh wow, I see what you mean. This
And
is
they would have been
great."
like pulling it around and being like, what about this thing?
To make holograms interactive seems really difficult, whereas augmented reality, it is interactive. I mean, that's
Right.
part of it. It's like, I don't know. I think that's
Yeah, I mean,
more realistic.
You really don't need to like project it into the air if everyone has a pair of glasses, right? That'll do just fine. Right?
Yeah.
If not better.
So let's talk about what's coming up. We know that the British woman is gonna get her way, right? And she's gonna do some. She's gonna electrify everything. But then at the last second, when they do the switch over, there's gonna be some huge.
The
electrical
She was
Storm.
wrong because they don't have. She doesn't have the experience.
Isn't-
all the Sims? They were supposed to prepare us, but nothing could prepare us for this.
Yeah.
So cliche.
I know.
It's so cliche.
Yes.
I mean,
You don't know.
But-
you haven't been here. I respect
I mean-
your opinion, but
it's just like
we need to move the plotline
you
forward.
would work.
What if she just threw a nutty? What if Hannah was just like, no, I'm the commander.
Well,
Right.
maybe. I mean, maybe that's what that's leading
You
up
just
to.
come down here the first day and you think you're a commander?
Well, maybe the point of this is to show to like help Hannah become a leader. You know, I
But
mean,
it's
I
been 4
That would be
years.
the
Yeah.
most.
I know. They
It
could
would be the
skip
most.
over this.
It would be the biggest waste of an entire show.
Well,
to
and,
have
and
that
also,
one plot
if
arc.
she's kept Javier in line for 4 years, she deserves a medal.
Yeah, I
Like,
know,
he
right?
must have been a pain in the ass for
Yeah.
4 years.
Yep.
I mean, he must
no,
especially not getting laid with all those.
No lavender for me.
No lavender.
You know she would have been like, Javier, come here. Go take her out on a date. You know,
Yeah.
like, let's have a
flowers.
movie.
It would be pretty romantic on Mars because at night there's no light pollution. So
That's-
the
Yeah.
stars would be the stars.
Except if you go out with a blanket, you got your suit on. So
You do have your suit. It doesn't matter.
Just
It's
like-
romantic.
Clank.
that would have been hilarious. It's like, oh, I didn't think of that.
Oh no! Foiled again.
That would be an infinitely more interesting episode. Honestly, would just be that entire interaction for 30 minutes.
Let's go in the rover, huh?
Right.
Well, it's like weird because they're like skipping over the science and they're just honing in on like, okay, we skipped the 4 years just to show you the next thing that happens
Right.
with the humans.
Right.
It's like,
So then
oh!
don't have all of this drama.
Yeah.
Just have it be like, we're working towards this. And I mean, they could all just be happy, like, we're working, we're doing it good, you know? Like,
And there could be like a
wouldn't
problem with the science. Maybe they gotta figure something out.
They're like,
but it's all
oh no,
human
we
problems.
didn't ship enough. Like, when they didn't ship enough rope, they were like, oh, we can re-splice it. Like, that's cool.
Yeah,
You're
right.
being resourceful
Problem
and
solved.
crafty
Right.
instead of just
There's
like,
no problem
we're
solved.
sending nanowires.
Yeah, this is
to
just
you."
all
Yeah.
human drama.
Also,
It's
the,
all,
the,
yeah.
the botanist comes down and
It's like
immediately
high
he's
skill.
gotten the hybrids to give him 50% more output. Well, if you have this information in your head, buddy-o,
Right.
how about ship it down to Mars
I know,
and let us
it's
know what
not
the hell
like-
you're doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he can tell his mom how to make his ivy grow better,
Right.
then
Well, clearly he can't do it very well because she's not doing a very good job.
is it to show that he's
reaming
he's
out
an
his mom
asshole?
about
Well,
aphids.
I think it's to show that he's like
Homesick.
really homesick and stressed out. You know, like he's like really edgy or not edgy, but like on edge.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. You wouldn't be shipping these people to Mars.
Javier, isn't there a psychologist in the group? Like,
Yeah, isn't
isn't
Yeah,
that
it's his
the
girlfriend.
lavender woman?
That's the one
Okay,
he's
so wouldn't
macking
she
on.
be like, okay,
Mac.
we really need to get him more help
I
because
thought, I thought she was a biologist.
Oh, I
no,
thought she was
no. She's
No, I think
she's like
biologist
the
is
doctor
Marta.
woman,
Right,
the
doctor.
doctory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
psychologist.
He's
doctor
obviously feeling
extraordinaire.
like he has to do everything, right? But yet he would have all of Earth's scientists helping him all the time. He'd be on,
Right, they'd
Skype
be-
calls.
Oh, I gotta do everything in here.
Yeah, he
Mamma
wouldn't
mia.
be doing the schedule. Like,
Italian.
well, like for instance, on the
I'm
International
Italian.
Space Station, everyone has what they're doing laid out. You can go online and see what their schedule is.
That's cool.
So
we can see what Javier's doing right now.
but what it is
Making out with Lavender.
It's not like the commander is telling them what to do, and like they have periods of free time. It's not like the commander has to be like, I need you to go do this and delegate tasks and stuff like that. It's all being done on the ground because there's a huge team of people like thinking about it and putting in actual.
It seems
thought.
like no one cares that they're on Mars except for this Elon Musk guy. Like,
know.
Right,
they're
yeah.
just like,
And even in
Oh,
this
Mars?
episode, he
Maybe-
really didn't act like it. He is a completely different shift.
Yeah.
He was just like,
Yeah.
we need to expand, and it's just like.
Right, you made it to
would-
Mars.
It could be that like they could be trying to model the whole like what happened after we went to the moon, right? How we just lost interest.
Yeah.
Right. And like
They did hint at that, where at one point the British woman said, "Imagine if you found life on Mars, how much more funding we'd get." And it's like, is
More
that-
funding.
You're getting-
This is the
there
biggest
is life
thing.
on Mars right now.
Right.
I feel like on Earth, now that you've gotten the settlement working, it would be a topic of discussion
It
all
would
the time,
be
and it would.
in the news.
Yeah.
It should
Yeah.
be, what's happening on Mars. Oh, they're,
Right.
they're changing over to nanowire.
Today, Javier and Lavender
Yeah.
hit it off. in
And
the
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
And, maybe you wouldn't
Martian
have
shore.
the personal stuff,
Martian shore.
but like,
Send Snooki to Mars.
but like
That would be great.
That would be
If they recommended that to get the funding level up, they're like, okay, we're sending.
right?
Snooki
If
to
they
That
Mars.
would
send
be
a
a-
celebrity
Yeah,
and
send
he's
her
an
all
that shit up.
asshole.
Oh man, that.
but I mean, a reality show would probably be the best way to get people to care about Mars.
Big
right?
Brother.
To get like,
Yes.
yeah.
I
exactly.
think that this is sort
You're
of
gonna
what
have to leave the house.
I
guess
Well, I
we
know,
do.
but on like in like inside the drama have like and then send it to Earth, right? Like I mean, it gets.
I want to see
little-
Martian sports.
So speaking of sports on Mars, tennis was brought up in this episode.
they mentioned tennis.
Now was that a joke?
I think it was a joke. I
Yeah.
don't think they have that much space to play.
Because can you imagine?
play
they're like-
Mars
I think
tennis?
what she was trying to say was like, by the time we're done here, you guys will have like tennis courts. So you guys,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like. So
I think it was a joke, but it's
She's-
also practical. But it wouldn't really work because the ball would just like.
The thing
float.
that I want
slow-mo
to do,
tennis.
I want to see Mars tennis because you need a much bigger court. You could like
Just
go
keep
back.
going.
No,
And
not a
then
bigger court.
Arguably,
smaller
it might go faster too, right? Because there'd be less air resistance.
Well, if you're in the hab, I mean,
Oh,
if you
if you're
were
in the hab.
outside and in a
outdoor
spacesuit,
Martian.
Yeah. That's what I was assuming they would get.
at least it wouldn't be influenced by.
I
the
want to
wind.
see
Yeah.
Martian basketball, and I want to dunk on a tennis.
Yeah, that's a
Oh
good
my
point.
god, you could dunk so
It
high.
wouldn't be that hard to bring a basketball to Mars and then like hang up a hoop.
Right.
Right.
But imagine how hard it would be to get like to get adjusted to like the physics of the ball falling at the. So you'd have to
I know.
change.
I
like,
think-
Dribbling would be different.
I think that humans are actually pretty adaptable to changing environments like that.
Now, one
Especially
thing
after
that
4
we saw
years.
on the Antarctica part of the episode was that they go out looking for life. They didn't really talk about that on Mars in the sense that we would have already contaminated Mars because we've had Ben Sawyer die, right? And so I assume by burying him,
Yeah.
we've now totally, unless they put him in some kind of special.
They'd have
thing
to
that would
look
never
far
break
away
out.
from where
I
they
think
were.
they may have. They wouldn't have the thing to cremate him, but yeah, I mean, maybe they buried him in a spacesuit. But when Hannah whacks open the Russian module,
Contamination.
right,
Which means that if you did find life on Mars,
there's a good chance it's from Earth.
so why don't we do that as an episode? Wouldn't that be cool? She's like, oh my god, I found a cell. And then it turns out it's Ben Sawyer's blood, you know?
That would be
Well, I mean,
very.
it would
cool.
And I think the only way that
bacteria.
we'd be able to tell whether or not it's like from Earth is if like because he talked about like there's only two situations whether it's like DNA based or it's something different, right? And so like if we found something different, then obviously
It
it'd be
would
like
not be
yes,
from
it
Earth.
was Martian life, but like it would be impossible to tell or not impossible.
I
to
do
tell.
like how he says there's only two options. It's either DNA based or it's not DNA based.
Yeah.
Or it could be kind of DNA based. Or like there's a million, billion,
Yeah.
zillion possibilities of that.
Yeah.
And also I kind of disagree with the statement about we understand all the other sciences. Those will all be the same on Mars.
No, I completely agree with you on this. I don't think that we can assume that science is the same across the universe. I know that like the laws of physics are, but like
I don't even know if we understand. Well, I
have to disagree with you there. The Newtonian laws of physics are going to be the same. Obviously, we don't understand exactly about like quantum mechanics and the large scale like galaxies kind of thing, but going between planets is sort of like if you went from, the United States to Canada in terms of like
Okay, but you get to Canada and it's in kilometers.
And Celsius. Okay.
Right, so it's different. And I'm
What
just
do
saying...
we think
the
about-
same distances.
But
Yes.
what do we think about like life? Like, okay, so apparently we need water for life, and
Well, no, it could be sulfur based.
yeah, like could it? Like that's the thing is,
Yeah.
I always think like
But
like,
they did
it'd be
say
different.
biology is different, right? So
Oh,
they didn't
is
say
right.
that.
Well, it's the one
They
thing that
said
they're
that
not
biology
sure.
would be
I
different.
guess I'm not arguing that it would be maybe the same. I'm just saying that it makes this supposition that we already understand science.
And I think
we
the
are
problem
at
is
the
that
very-
there is the assumption that we do know everything. I feel like history has proven that. How many times have we been so certain of
Yeah.
things and then proven them wrong 100 years later?
Like psychics
Yeah.
on Mars might be totally different than psychics on Earth.
I'm saying though that
Political science.
that the audience that they're clearly projecting to is not the audience that's going to be questioning
Well,
science.
yeah.
it's the people who don't need to be brought up to speed on science.
Another
I'd like
thing
to
that-
know the demographic of this show.
I was gonna say
Yes.
that, yeah.
Like, I want to know, like, who is actually watching this? Is it
And do
people
they
who are-
like it?
I really
Right, yeah.
feel like there was a targeted audience, and no one in the target. Like if there's a Venn diagram, there are people who are interested in Mars, and then there are people who aren't interested in Mars, and it was targeted mostly at these people.
Yeah,
and
well, I mean,
don't
it is
think
on
that
Nat Geo.
there's-
I mean, that might tell you it's interested in people who are interested in like exploration of the
Yeah.
Earth kind of thing. But Mars is so far out of that maybe that it's maybe beyond that audience that they were planning. I do want to ask about the flag. We talked about is there a flag of Mars yet? Because it's 4 episodes. I thought by now we would have been talking a little bit about the political structure or the laws. Like that's all interesting stuff to me. Okay, science. Maybe you don't want to put that in there, but politics? Are there
Right
laws
now it's
on Mars?
dog eat dog, and I don't like it. It's like there would be an established leader, and there would be a plan.
There wouldn't
They didn't
even be a
show that.
leader on Mars. There would
Yeah.
just be like
Someone in charge.
Everyone, there'd be a huge team on Earth that was deciding all the things that would happen.
council.
And then
Well,
basically,
they show that, right? I mean, Hannah's sister is in charge of that.
Yeah, but like she's the only one that we ever really see. We don't get to see like a room full of engineers and the one guy with beard's like, yeah, well, I think that this is that, and then they delegate or do whatever like that. We never see any of that, never hear any of that. Everyone's wearing suits.
I would like to
there's no
see some
t-shirts
disagreement
out.
about like let's go plant the flag today, and they're like, wait, what? I didn't agree to that flag. Like
Right.
Yeah.
there would be a flag by now, wouldn't there?
So there's an idea for a Martian flag, and that is sort of like the same structure as like the French flag or something like that, or an Italian flag where it's red, green, and then blue.
Yep.
And that's basically based off of a book series where it talked about Mars, starting off red, and then you start terraforming it so it's green, and then there's more
Oceans.
water so it's blue. I think that's pretty cool.
How come we're not talking about terraforming in any of these episodes? Is that coming?
They talked about it a little bit in this one when they were, but it was back on Earth. It was in 2016. It wasn't 2037. Like
Right,
they were
right.
talking about like, oh, well, terraforming is essential or whatever.
Right.
And they talked about the wheat fields. Too.
Right. But but that's not terraforming. That's just sort of
Planting.
adapting to the climate on Mars. To terraform, you would need to. There are a couple different ideas. One is that you sort of launch asteroids at the poles to start melting the ice caps. Some people think you could like use nukes or something like that. Other people think that you.
And just to give you some idea, this would wipe out anything you would put on the planet. So if you're gonna do that, we should do that first. So
Wipe
like
out
if you,
it? What do you mean wipe out?
So I mean, if you're gonna aim asteroids at Mars and to terraform it, you better not have started a colony first.
No.
My
really.
sources say you're not gonna survive it.
What if you're on the other end of the planet?
Yeah, if you're, I mean, it's a planet. An asteroid could hit, New Zealand right now. We'd be fine. It depends on the size. It depends on the size of the asteroid. But also, we have a much denser atmosphere, and so the effects sort of carry around the whole globe. Like if there's a huge forest fire somewhere, I mean, the scales of which are hard to picture.
The smallest number of years I've seen that it would take would be, hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years, yeah. I'm getting the feeling that they're going to skip ahead to, that they're going to skip to the green and the blue kind of.
They're gonna skip
Oh,
things
really?
in
You
the
think
show.
there's going to be a huge leap?
I
Like
would-
21,
I agree.
37?
Oh, because if you do look at
they're
it, maybe
skipping
we're speeding
ahead-
up fast.
If
Yeah.
they're skipping ahead already, I would at least hope that at the end we're looking at like a blue terraforming
Maybe.
Mars.
I don't know
I
if
think
it's
that
going to
would-
come that
that may
quickly,
be
though.
a little
At the end of the
too science
season,
fiction
we're not
for
going to be
me.
able to tell if it's Earth or Mars.
Maybe.
Right, I think that
I
might
mean,
be a
how
little too
long
fictitious
is
for me.
this season of the show going to be, though? I mean, we're going on to episode 5 next week. I mean,
Right.
is it a 10
True.
episode season, 13 episode season?
I'm just saying, if they were able
there's
to
a lot of
skip
ground
ahead
cover, especially if
for-
we're going to spend the next episode with them
Yeah.
being like stuck inside the base because of a big storm and
I
we're
bet-
out of power.
I
you
bet
know?
we'll end with
We're
a
gonna-
city on Mars, and I bet it will have some plants outside.
Yeah, probably won't be too much.
That's
I don't
my
think
guess.
so.
Maybe
Okay,
that's the
a
final
good
shot
guess.
as a plant sprouting out of the
Yeah,
Martian
I'd say.
soil and then
Okay.
cut the
Some
blast
kind of city.
over.
We'll have some kind of city. I don't know if it'll be us being outside. Probably not that, but
They're almost at a city though, which is cool.
yeah, that's why I think
it'll
it'll
be
be
sky-
Although it won't, terraforming Mars won't necessarily solve the radiation problem. The atmosphere can absorb some, but most of the radiation that's absorbed by Earth is absorbed by its magnetic field. And getting a magnetic field to be on Mars would be kind of complicated.
Let's do space balls. We'll put a
no,
big glass
a big,
one.
a big electromagnet. Let's just do it.
So we've been getting a lot of great comments from you guys, and so now is the part of the episode where we are going to address your questions and comments. So here we go. So we got a great comment from Matthew about the fact that he DVRs not only the Mars show on Nat Geo, but also the Mars show on the Science Channel. So that is a great idea because I hear that show has a lot more science in it. So we should probably be thinking about catching up on the second Mars show. I think what's kind of dumb here is that by naming it Mars and then having a Science Channel show called Mars, people might have gotten a little confused about
Yeah.
is it the same show? So
Right.
Is it called Mars?
I don't know. We'll have to find that out.
We'll find out.
Interesting.
We got another good comment that if we're looking for a cool Mars-y show, that we should look for the show called Expanse, which is on the Sci-Fi Network. It came out in 2014, I believe, maybe 15. We watched the first episode of that, Jesse and I, and it's very science fiction-y. It's not science-y, but it's cool. It seems to have quite a good budget. So that's two cool comments. Please keep giving us your comments and your questions, things you'd like us to talk about, things you like, things you don't. We love your comments, so keep them coming. All right, so now it is time to give away the Mars poster. We have some great quotes here. Nicholas981000 says, "The space shuttle was often used as an example of why you shouldn't even attempt to make something reusable, but one failed experiment does not invalidate the greater goal. If that was the case, we'd never have had the light bulb."
It's a good
That's
quote.
a good
That
point.
isn't bad.
Thumbs up, thumbs down? I don't know. Yes?
I'm gonna say thumbs up. I like that quote.
I like that
too.
quote.
Is it real?
Okay, quote too.
I think that's real.
Yeah,
I don't think we can check. Because we said that you could use a fake one.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they can slide it past this, maybe we.
Attic Land says, "The only reason for me to accumulate assets is to make the greatest contribution that I can to making life multiplanetary."
So I think that's from the show.
Right. Well,
No, I think he
No.
said something along those
Sure?
lines
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Interesting.
but you think it's the French guy saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think he's
Did
like
Elon say
he
that?
usually multiplanetary is a big buzzword for him.
Right. I think he might have said that in Mexico. I like
Interesting.
that too. Michael
Thumbs up for
Brown.
me.
Michael Brown says the future of humanity is going to bifurcate in two directions. Either it is going to become multiplanetary, or it's going to remain confined to one planet, and eventually there's going to be an extinction event.
So
That's a good
very
one.
Powerful.
That's a scary one.
That's very
Yeah.
scary.
Now it makes me nervous.
Gotta go to Mars.
Makes you want to
We're
go to Mars.
spreading our assets.
Yes.
Richard Heckbert says, "If humanity is to become multiplanetary, the fundamental breakthrough that needs to occur in rocketry is a rapidly and completely reusable rocket. Achieving it would be on par with what the Wright brothers did. It's the fundamental thing that's necessary for humanity to become a spacefaring civilization. America would never have been colonized if ships weren't reusable."
Yeah, that's Elon for sure.
That's definitely Elon.
That's a good one.
If you're pro-colonization, you'll probably like that quote. Kevin Bailey says, "We're running the most dangerous experiment in history right now, which is to see how much carbon dioxide the atmosphere can handle before there is an environmental catastrophe."
I
That one's
love
very
one.
poetic.
I love that
is-
one.
I like it short and
That gets
sweet.
2 thumbs up
Yes.
from me.
Oh.
Yeah.
That one.
I'm
is
also
cryptic.
gonna give that one 2 thumbs up.
And then finally, Alexander C. says, "I didn't hire you because I was convinced you could keep your feelings separate from this mission. I hired you because I knew you couldn't. Because I needed someone who understands what I understand. For something like this to work, it has to be personal."
I wonder who said that.
That was
That's Ed.
that was Ed. Yeah.
Ed.
So I mean,
I mean,
I like
Sure.
that. I like the extinction event one.
I do
Yeah.
too. That one
Second to last
that
one?
one's nice and concise. It gets the point across.
Yeah.
Without some of the other ones, I like them, but they go on for a bit. So maybe you kind of like lose something in there. Whereas that one's like that one you can throw on a poster and be like,
Yeah.
boom.
the one,
You know?
the experiment one.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
one's good too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one is my favorite.
Yeah, it's between those two for me, I think.
Okay, so maybe we come to decide between those two official votes.
Well, maybe I don't know.
Oh.
I'm gonna throw in
Wild
I'm gonna-
card.
Wild card.
Wild card.
I just think because we're
Australian
talking about Mars, maybe the multiplanetary theme one, maybe it gets a little bit of
I
an
hear you.
advantage.
I hear
Why
you
are there
on
no
that.
Australians in this TV show, by the way?
That's
Australians don't go to space.
Yeah, I forgot about
Widely
that.
known fact.
Yeah. Anyway, should we come to a
Sidetracked.
vote?
true. Fun fact. Now you know.
Yeah, let's do a vote. So the three that are in the running then is the future of humanity is going to bifurcate. Who wants that one? That's the one that ends in the extinction event. So we get 2 for that. Richard Heckbert's if humanity is going to become multiplanetary, and it ends with colonizing ships. Colonizing ships. Who wants to vote for that?
I'm not gonna vote for that
You're
one.
the one who brought that one up. And then finally, Kevin Bailey's "We're running the most dangerous experiment." See how much carbon dioxide the atmosphere.
I
can
mean,
handle.
I feel so pertinent to what's going on right now that's just so powerful, you know?
All right,
It is
so
powerful.
Kevin Bailey, you are the winner of the poster.
Kevin
Congrats.
Bailey!
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
So-
Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. This was episode 4 of Talking Mars. Please tune in next week for episode 5.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Talking Mars. Now you know channel thanks you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Also like this video. For some reason YouTube likes it when you like our videos, and it sort of suggests it to more people. So even though you aren't directly sharing it, you will be introducing it
You're
to more
sharing
people.
your social currency.
You'll be helping us lift off
Ooh.
into this YouTube space
Mars
that
guys.
is the trending page.
Yeah.
Which we'll eventually hit.
Please like, subscribe, also support us on Patreon if you'd like.